MyDoma Studio is your complete designer toolkit. You know this, right? MyDoma makes it easy to streamline your processes, track your projects, communicate with clients, and just get organized. It is created by designers for designers, specifically to address what you need as a design business owner. MyDoma is now together with Studio Designer, and they are the industry-leading solution. With 20,000 plus users, more designers choose their platform than any other. Are you ready to reach the next level of profitability and efficiency? Book a demo with MyDoma Studio today by going to mydomastudio.com/LuAnn. That's mydomastudio.com/LuAnn. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. We've all been in a situation where we have lost a project after sending a proposal. It never feels good, but we come to learn that it's part of running a business. Most of the time, we just move on to the next project without giving it too much thought. But my guest today, Ali Faulkner of AEF Interiors, started to handle things differently after she noticed a run of lost projects. She started asking for feedback about why. And for a lot of us, this probably sounds scary, right? Rejection doesn't feel fun in the first place, and learning why you were rejected is probably a little intimidating. But what if those answers could help us? What if, just like doing the autopsy of a project, you could essentially do an autopsy of that early stage and determine what you could be doing better? That's what happened to Ali, and it helped her business grow. It helped her build confidence, and it pushed her to make the changes she needed to change to position herself better, to do what needed to be done to land the clients she wanted to land, and to understand more about how to run her business better. Today, she's here to share what pushed her to ask for this feedback and what questions she specifically asked and the difference it made for her. Before we get to Ali, I'd like to thank our show sponsor, MyDoma Studio. Picture this. You're juggling emails, design revisions, project timelines, and client expectations, all while trying to do the business part of your business. It's a little overwhelming, isn't it? Enter MyDoma Studio, the designer toolkit built specifically for what you do. It simplifies your processes, keeps your projects on track, and makes client communication seamless. Here's the truth. Profitability isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter. And MyDoma Studio helps you do exactly that. Take the first step today and get 20% off your first 3 months at mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. Simplify your business, multiply your results. Now, let's hear from Ali about how to learn more from rejection and how to use it to move your business in the direction you'd like it to go. Hey, Ali, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business.
Hi, LuAnn. Thanks for having me.
We're both like, oh my God, this is like 2.5 years.
I think I got my first gray hair. We're finally made it.
Oh my God, wait, oh my God. Well, between the long line to get on the show and then we had tech difficulties and I don't know what else happened. I think one of my grandchildren had to run to the nurse. I don't know. I can't remember half the crap that's happened with us trying to get this show interviewed, right?
You know what? It's made for a great thought process for me to be ready for this. 8 months in the making.
Yeah. Actually, It's like 18 months in the making, isn't it? No, it is. It is. Because I met you in real life a year ago now in Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And
It's
you
summer.
already had an interview scheduled and had already waited 6 months, and it wasn't even on my calendar until the following fall. And then all the nonsense kept happening, and we had to keep rescheduling. So, anyway, we're here. And see, now you're not a stranger. Now you're my friend coming on the show because now we've seen each other a couple of times in real life.
Like I
So,
said, it was meant to be. Times have
exactly.
been a brewing for us.
Exactly. So here's the thing. You did write your intake form 2 years ago. But there is something on that intake form that really, really grabbed me, Ali. And it was always ask follow up questions when you lose a job. And I just thought, man alive, do I love that so much. And I know it takes a lot of nerve to do that. So, talk to me. Of course, that was written nearly 2 years ago, probably 2 years ago, truly, if I really look at the date. Um, and that was probably on the heels of some hard lessons, it seems like. But now you have that distance. My God, you may as well be 20 years in business. 2 years in business is a long time for growth and maturity and lessons, right?
Dog years. I'm convinced business years are like dog years. For every year,
I love
it's 7 years old. So yes, 14 years later, here we are.
Yes. I love it. So, but talk to me about that, like your actual experience with it. Like, where did that come from? How did you know to do that? And what is the experience of asking some projects that you've lost why they chose someone else? Tell me about that.
Gosh, I think that like the idea of in a service-based business, right? Like it's so personal. So I feel like when you get a no, it automatically just feels like gut-wrenching, right?
Mm,
And you kind of start to spiral in your head of like, well, maybe it was this. Oh, maybe it was this interaction. Maybe my price was too high. And the reality is like once you start to get a few no's in a row, it really kind of starts to break down your self confidence. And
mm.
again, you start just making up reasons to why this could have happened, but without seeking to understand. And maybe this is through like personal therapy, but like without actually finding out the true answer because you don't even know what the reason is for making those changes.
Right. How
Um,
can you learn from your mistake, or how can
if
you
you
do a process better if you don't even know what you're correcting, right?
Yes, exactly. And so I think like I come from like a luxury hospitality corporate background. So I think the experience of like asking for feedback, I very much learned from like working at Deloitte. Like if a client experience wasn't great or we lost an account, you always need to seek to understand. So that
Mm,
I very much like got from the previous experience. But the idea is that, back in this was 2022 that this happened and I had started my business in October of 2019. And in the beginning, people are saying yes to you all the time because A, COVID happened. So everyone was going gangbusters on fixing things. B, my price was probably so low that they were like,
right.
sure, we'll take it. Right. And then so here we are, fast forward to 2 years later. My clientele had completely changed and I didn't realize it. So without
Mm,
seeking that feedback, and asking those really important questions. And I'm happy to share what those questions are because I still do it to this day.
great.
Really was so instrumental in realizing like where my next shift and where my next move was, which was like catapulted the business and getting that information.
So yeah, like what kinds of questions and what kinds of answers were you getting?
Okay, so what ended up happening basically is 2022, I get an office space, like blindly, by the way. We could talk about needing to know your numbers all day, but that's another conversation for another day. Anyways, get myself an office space, hire another full time person. I'm like, wow, like we have 2 years of work. Like everyone that we send these bids out is going to say yes because they had been. Well, the reality is we had enough of a portfolio to where people started to consider us for those larger jobs, but not enough experience and this other information I found out. So I thought in my head, oh, we're going to send out these 9 bids. Our signing rate's going to be exactly what it was over the last 2 years of COVID. Nope,
Right.
definitely not.
No.
We sent out over 6 months, we sent out 9 bids and only won 2 of them. And I
Whoa.
was literally pooping my pants. I was like, what? I just got an office. I just hired another full time person. Like, what is going on? And I was like, something's broken. Something needs to be
Yeah.
fixed.
What's
One
wrong?
of them, by the way, was my mother-in-law's guest bedroom. I think she freaking felt bad for me, if I'm being completely candid. So here I am, and I'm like, I have to ask for feedback. So I asked people, I said, hey, we're always trying to refine our onboarding process here at AEF Interiors. If you have a quick minute, will you answer 2 questions for me? One, did you have all the information you needed to make your decision? And then two, of your decision criteria, what weren't we able to fulfill? And so
Mm.
this guy gets on the phone with me. It was like a dream project in a dream neighborhood. And he tells me, he's like, hey, you were one of 6 designers who bid this job. You were the only one who asked for feedback. It says a lot about your character. Here's what
Wow.
I'll tell you. He's like, let's get on the phone. So I hop on the phone with him and he's like, this is what I'm going to tell you. One, your hourly rate was $50 to $75 an hour under all the other designers. As a luxury consumer, I
That's
think,
scary.
what am I not getting by working with you? And I don't,
Right? That's scary.
he's like, so let's lay it out there, right? And then two, I went with the designer who did the house down the street. That will come with time. There's nothing you can do about that, blah, blah. I was like, okay, noted. And he said, three, you don't have relationships with architects or builders yet built that you have repeat relationships with that you can use as resources. So I was like, okay, well, one of those things I can change tomorrow. Like I
Right.
can
I can
change,
raise my rates.
raise my rate. And that's again, realizing that like I had enough of a portfolio from 2019 to 2022 to now
Attract
move.
that guy.
Correct.
And
Attract.
but you didn't go where your consumer went. You stayed back down with the other bank of consumers that were expecting this level pricing. Right.
And here in my head
Yeah.
thinking, oh, my price was too expensive. Because, we all think like our price is too expensive. But in reality, here I find out like I wasn't pricing to who my new clientele and who my new market was. And then the second thing, I was like, okay, well, I have to figure out how to get into the neighborhood. And then I also have to figure out how to build relationships. So what I will say is that what I did in those 6 months when I lost all those projects is I didn't know my business model and
Mm,
actually what size of project I needed in order to be profitable. So what
right.
happened was is I kind of got caught up in like, oh, I'm getting the opportunity to bid these like whole home projects, to bid these things. And so I really said like, I'm too good for these little like smaller projects now. Like and my
Yeah.
signing rate was so high over the last few years. But what in actuality was happening is I was starting to realize that like, yes, you're going to get considered for those, but you're not going to win them all. So
Right.
it
You need
made
to keep some of the
you
others in the fire. Yep.
correct. So what
Yep.
it made me realize is, okay, well, how do I get in the neighborhood? I could do that by just doing a living room down the street. I don't
Right.
need this whole house in order to get into the neighborhood. I actually just need to figure out how to start working with the people who are in that
In the
neighborhood. And it doesn't
neighborhood.
have to be in this larger capacity. So I think like it was twofold. It was a conversation of like hearing that information and being able to look back. I will say something. I was like, while I didn't know my numbers in that regards of like what size projects I needed, and I was just kind of caught up in chasing like what everyone else wanted and not realizing like I'll eat someone's lunch all day long. Like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you live in this neighborhood and you want to hire this really well-known interior designer, but they'll only take on a whole home. Well, I can help you at that same like touch point level and provide you, I have access to that same level of product, like I'll help you. So I started to realize that like you can there's the same way to skin a cat. Like what's the
Yeah, yeah,
stupid
yeah.
phrase, right? But like
Yeah, there's more than
okay,
one way to skin
one
a
way to
cat.
skin a cat. So if I wanted to make gross revenue 200 grand on a project, well, I could do that with 8 living rooms. And I could
Right.
be and I could actually be just as profitable and probably have a better likely of landing that type of project given my experience and given my
And 8 people to give you referrals to their friends as opposed to one
uh-huh.
person, one
Yeah,
customer, one client, right?
exactly. So I think that it made me really realize like, oh, you got really caught up in a little like you were chasing what everyone else wanted to chase rather than what you actually needed to be profitable and continue to build your business. And
Right.
you do need past clients, kind of like compound interest. Like
Yep,
the
yep, yep,
more past clients you
yep.
have,
They're
the
building
more,
that referral base.
yeah,
Yeah, that network of people that says, "Allie, Allie, 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 Allie."
sure. And I was just chasing like big project, not realizing like the likelihood of me, I could get considered, but it wasn't necessarily my time to win those projects yet, but I was to learn from them. So
Yes.
what I will say, going back to, while I didn't know my numbers in regards to what size projects I needed and was realistic about that, I did track where all of my leads were coming from. So what I did is I looked back and I said, okay, um, where am I spending all my time? Because clearly, like, I need to figure out how to get into the neighborhood and I need to go build relationships. So I looked at where all my leads are coming from. I had them in a little Excel spreadsheet and I was like, great, over 50% of my leads are coming from Instagram. Now let's go to harvest. How much time am I spending on Instagram? I look 50 hours a month times $200 an hour, which is what I should be charging. That's 10 grand. Okay, I'm going to go buy my time back. I'm going to go figure out how to hit the pavement, meet these architects and builders who are a similar phase of business that I am, and go figure out how to get in the neighborhood. And so, like, I
Mm.
bought my time back, and I had very little money in the bank account when I did that because of all the poor
Yes.
choices I had made
Yeah.
previously the last 6
Yeah.
months. But yeah, I'll kind of like let that all digest and sit. But like,
Yes.
it all was because I asked for feedback, that it was this catalyst of all of these other decisions. And really, again, so much of that moment of asking for feedback is what caused like the growth of AEF Interiors. But it was like, I'm not gonna lie, it was not pretty getting there.
Oh,
Like,
I'm
it was a
sure it
lot of
was
self-reflection. Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
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 Scary, scary, scary. So I love it. So the two questions were, did you have all the information you needed in order to decide for or against me? And what was the criteria that I fell short on? Essentially, a version of those two questions.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And is he the only person that took his time to give you feedback? I mean, if he was, you got tremendous feedback and direction, but were there other people that was of the 7 that said no that were willing to?
I had like 2 other people reply back as well. Some people
Okay.
are like, I've moved on, like, but
Yeah.
I will say that there are some people who genuinely do want to help you, and they're not
Yes.
afraid to have like that hard conversation. And I continually do that to this day. Some people said, like, oh, we didn't feel like your aesthetic was a good fit, or we didn't feel that you had enough of a portfolio of this size of a home. Like, I started to realize that, like, okay, I don't need to be chasing those projects right now. It will come with time by coming, like, I just don't know how to explain it. If they were coming through Instagram, you almost needed more of a connection and a validator
Yes.
to convert that person. Instagram wasn't enough to be able to do that. So it's like I almost needed to be in the neighborhood and worked with the person next door who lived next to them and had seen the
Right.
what I had done with just a living room. But I had
Right.
learned it was like the size of project, it was my price, it was, again, not being in the neighborhood. But that conversation specifically is what I could literally point a thread to how I got one of my like portfolio building projects because of that conversation.
Wow. And what happened? How did that happen?
Yeah. So, okay. So I should have used AI to do this, but remember how the guy said, I went with the person who did the home down the street. You can't do anything
Mhm.
about that. That's going to take time. It's funny because I was like, did Kate Lester cuss on her
Oh,
podcast? I should go
yes,
back
we
and
had
go
to
look.
edit her every 20 seconds. Thank you very much, Kate.
I was like, I should go make sure if I can do that. But anyways, so what ended up
That's
happening
so
was
funny.
is I was like, okay, I wanted in these like 3 neighborhoods, right? And so I got on Zillow that night and I was like, what realtors keep popping up in those neighborhoods? And I found 2. And I reached out to them on Instagram and I said, like, hey, I really like how I would say, like, hey, I really love how you did this blah, blah, blah reel. Like, it really shows your personality. Like, I can resonate with you being a bartender in the past because I worked in hospitality. Like, if you ever want to grab a drink, like, I'd love to work with you and know how I can help you in showing the potential of a home. I wrote like 2
Mm,
people.
right.
One person blew me off, one person wrote me back. And so I meet with him and I'm like, "Hey, like if you're ever having a hard time like selling a dump and you want like a rendering of a kitchen or a floor plan, like I'll do it for you. And if it's in these neighborhoods, that would be even better." Cuz so what I did is he was like, "Great. Let's see if we'll leave here." We had a drink. We went to this house. It was in the neighborhood that I just lost that proposal for. And he was like, "What do you think you can do? Like marketing?" And I was like, "I'll give you like a floor plan, a rendering of what this could be." And like in my head, so I'm thinking in my head like, "Oh, this is awesome. Like he's going to hand these out at the open house when he lists it. Like, that's what I thought in my head, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do that for him. I tag this well-known realtor who's in this area, and he reposts it. Like, so I'm starting to build this like no trust with people who like no trust in this neighborhood. And I remember I went to like a women's bunko that night, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, your new project in blah blah blah." And I was like, I'm helping someone out in that new like, it was just, you're creating this
Yes.
like, it's not to say you weren't, it's not like I was like saying, "Oh yeah, I'm doing
You
the
weren't
whole
saying I
house."
did this
Correct.
project. You're
But I
saying
was
I'm
like,
helping the
I'm
realtor.
helping
Let
the
you
realtor out.
envision what this house could look like.
Correct. And so I thought for sure, I was like, money. I bet you money I'm going to get an inquiry on my website that's going to say, "Hey, Ali, we saw your really cool renderings and drawings from blah, blah, blah house on Glen Creek Drive. We'd love to work together." No, none of that happened. Like, literally none of that. I did it like 2 or 3 times for him. Like, he's like, "Hey, I've got another listing. Would you mind doing that for me again? Hey, I've got another listing. Would you mind doing that for me again?" I didn't see the ROI directly from that interaction. But you know what I did? And I didn't realize I was doing it, is I was building a reputation with someone who already had a strong reputation in these neighborhoods. And I was showing to him that I was dependable, that I was
Um,
responsive, that I was on time, that I was fun and easy to work with. So I became a referral partner of his without even like realizing that that's what I was doing. So
yes.
he ended up like calling me on like a Sunday and was like, "Hey, this client, we're at the house right now. Do you think you can come over?" And me, of course, like, I'm like, boundaries, right? Learned right now. But I'm like, "Hey, Mark, yeah, I could totally come over. How about like, Monday, blah, 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 blah." But like, that project was in one of the
That
neighborhoods I wanted to
neighborhood.
work with, and is one of like our portfolio projects that's help us build our aesthetic. And
Wow.
it's just, again, that thread line of like understanding, like, I moved that domino, and it caused all these other things to trigger. And
Yes.
it's just, I feel like sometimes we think something is going to be a result of something, and it was completely different.
Yeah.
And
So,
it's,
but for me to understand for clarity,
yeah,
what you're saying is 3 times he asks you to do free work.
yeah,
But then ultimately, this last thing, he sold the house to the people and was recommending you as the designer for them.
totally separate house.
Right. Like now he
Yeah.
has another house that he sells,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
now he's not asking you that. That time he didn't ask for free work. He's like, I got a designer for you.
Yes, exactly. And I was
Yes. Yes. Yes.
because, just to give you context too, like, I've never worked in this industry. I'm not from Orange County. I
Right.
didn't have any network when I built this business. I moved here. I worked at another job with 5 private equity dudes, got laid off, and like, I had no network and
Wow.
no bit like experience working in this industry. So what I realized is Instagram was part of my marketing funnel, but I
Right.
needed to create other funnels, which were building relationships with architects and builders, building relationships with realtors to figure out how to get into the neighborhood, letting people know, like, "Hey, I don't just do whole home, but I actually do like single living room projects. I do living room and dining rooms." And like,
Yes.
being open about being open and honest with myself of what type of projects are going to be profitable to my
Mm.
business. And
Hmm.
you will grow from those projects,
Right.
because
Right.
more than likely the person who's got a living room and a dining room that needs to be done, maybe
Yeah,
3 years from
have a
now, has a
bedroom
new
and a
build,
family room. Yep.
or
Right.
even
Right.
a new build 3 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you just have to be honest with like what type of project sizes you should be taking on given your portfolio and given your experience, and not trying to be like keeping up with the Joneses and doing all the projects that everyone else wants to do, because you may not
Right.
even have the portfolio to win those. But I think the most
Hmm.
significant thing that came from hearing that feedback is I had 30 grand in the account. Now, whether that 30 grand during that time when I heard that feedback was my money or not, it was 30 grand in the account. And I knew if I didn't put that money to work, it was going to be gone 3 months from now.
Yes.
So I think one of the most, aside from those components of reaching out to the realtors and, reaching out to the architects and builders, the only way I had the capacity to do that is because I paid someone 4 grand to go run my Instagram. I had 30 grand in the account. And I said, if I was to keep doing this at my time, it's 10. I'm going to buy my time back,
Wow.
pay someone 4 grand to go do this. And what I will tell you is from August of 2022 to December of 2022, we doubled our leads
Wow.
by, again, knowing our leads were coming from making that investment. And then it wasn't just from Instagram, but because I bought my time back to go start building these relationships. Then
Yes.
we go from August of 2022, we double our leads. We don't really, again, to December, we don't really grow that many followers. But in the previous year, in 2023, we grew from like 7,000 to 32,000. And our leads, again, we doubled our leads. We went from like, I think it was 73 leads in 2022 to like 140 leads in 2023.
Wow. Wow.
Because again, we were like, I was looking at the data and where was this coming from? And I was willing to like bet on myself. And I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to buy my time back to go fill these other marketing initiatives. And like, it was scary. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like I said, I only had 30 grand in the account.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it was
But
going to be,
but that's like what the best consultants will tell us. Amber De La Garza, I swear to God, the productivity specialist, who's my one of my
oh,
my
I met
everyday
her.
coach.
I met
Yeah,
her. Yeah.
yeah, in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
And it's like literally, she's like, highest value activity, Lou. Highest value activity. What are you doing? What's the thing
I
that
didn't know
only
that's
Lou
what
can do?
I didn't know
Yep.
that's the thing I was doing, but I was like,
Yes,
that's
what you just said. It's like, and your experience and the way you had to do it, that's not lost on me. Like, I've got 30K. It's technically going to cost me 10K, but I'm not writing a check for 10K, but I am going to write a check for 4K in order to free my time. Like, that's a scary thing, Ali, and high five on you for doing that, because, it's so many of us will just be like, well, it really doesn't cost me 10K to do that, so I'll keep doing it for free. But that is us. Like, Madeline McRae is another business consultant that she's been on my window treatment podcast a lot. And I remember, oh my God, 10 years ago, she's like, Lou, there's $10 an hour activities, there's $100 an hour activities, there's $1,000 hour activities, and there's $10,000 an hour activities. What are you doing? Every day, I want you to say to yourself, how much does this activity actually cost to do? Because if you are not spending your time in the $10,000 hour activities,
what are
you
you
are
doing?
blowing your money down the drain, right?
I think it's hard for people to not like, everyone's just like ROI, am I going to get my money's worth? And like, you have to be looking at your time as and it was risky. Like I said, it was risky,
Yeah.
but like, what I chose to do, I think I was very clear though when I did hire someone to help with social media, like who I was, what I wanted to tell people. And like, the reality is like, you beat the drum over and over and over again, and you will become known for what you tell people you are. And so
Yeah.
I think that like having the, I would say, like, awareness piece to, a lot of people could have spent $4,000 and that could have just gone down the drain. I'm not going to lie. Like, I do think going into the Instagram
Yes.
game,
Yeah.
you have to be very intentional with what you are going to tell people. And I already knew that so much of our business is coming from there. And I literally was like, we're just going to start telling people about our process, and we are going to show people like what makes us different, because I didn't have enough of a beautiful portfolio to really capture people. So I was like, okay, well, what makes us different? Why did I start this business to begin with? Because I believed in myself and my luxury background. I knew that we could do this, and I needed to just beat that drum over and over again. And Instagram was a free resource to be able to do so.
Right. Now, it's interesting because before we move off of this whole guy giving you this three pieces of advice, I think it's, really, really nice that he did that, is, the whole, like, you were $75 to $100 lower per hour than everybody else. And you know what? Listen, I don't think that somebody who isn't, you can't charge above your level. You can't charge above what you can deliver. You can't just say, hey, I have a minute experience and all the designers in my area are $375 an hour, so I'm going to be $375 an hour. Like, you have to match your chops, right? But I don't think that's the problem of most interior designers overpricing themselves. To my, the thousands of designers I've talked to, there's very few of you that are likely to overprice yourself, as opposed to thousands who are more likely to underprice. And we've had the conversation on the podcast dozens of times. I've had the conversation one-on-one dozens of times. And it's like, two things will happen. Oh, but my clients won't be able to afford me then. I'm like, right, you're leaving those behind. You're leaving them. You're right. They're not going to be. And that's why I always like you, all of you as designers, to have a good little circle of trust with some from designers in your area that are above you, next to you, and below you in skill set, in experience, in seasonability, because you're going to get a job that like somebody's going to come to you and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I worked with you 5 years ago and it was a $5,000 flat fee for a kitchen. You're like, right, but now it's 15,000 or whatever it is. But you know what? Sally is amazing. I love her, blah, blah, blah. And at the same time, you might get an inquiry of somebody, you're capable of doing it now, Ali, but there was a point where I'm sorry, a 20,000 square foot house and everything in it from the ground up, I might be a little underwater here. Let me refer that to so-and-so and let her. I interviewed somebody, Julia, on the show years ago, and she got all Shay McGee's cast off. She built it a business. Now she's as big as ever, right? Like she was like, yeah, like, when Shay, it's a job's too small for her, she sends them to me,
Well,
right?
and it's very real. I mean, that's what I started to realize was like, again, going in, if we look at the data of 2023, I think I sent out 23 bids. I signed 18. Two
Yeah.
of those were from designers who were bigger than me.
Yeah.
And so
See?
I had to realize, and that's something too. I realized like I had to build community to figure out how to get into the neighborhood, to have those existing
Mm-hmm.
relationships with builders and architects, and also realize the type of project size that was going to make my business profitable.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Right.
it
Right. Right.
is having the
Right.
connection of, like you said, above, same, and below,
Yeah.
because it's just no one wants to tell a client no, right? They always want
No.
to be able to say, hey, I've got you. I got you in
Right.
good hands. And I do think that the right people do want to pay it forward. But when you think that you just want to, I think it's a little bit of a vanity thing. You want to have all
Yeah.
the big jobs like everyone else, but you have to grow to that place.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not,
Mm-hmm.
just because you're getting considered, what doesn't mean you're going to win.
Right. 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 Well, and then the other part of that being the 50 to 75 to $100 an hour less is we've all gotten, like I've done solo episodes on this, particularly on the window treatment podcast. But, like you get a quote to do a roof. One guy is 20K, one guy is 30K, and the other guy's 35. Like, I'm sorry, who's even thinking about the 20K guy? You're just like, you're off the list, right? Because the other guy's 30 and 35. You automatically distrust the 20. It's like, what? Like he said to you, what are we not going to get? Right. And I'm like, okay, is this the crew that's not going to show up? Are they going to be the one leaving all the junk around the house? And it could be a great person. You would have done a great job for that client, but there's a perception of the least expensive. And for the luxury consumer, that perception isn't, yay, I'm saving money.
Correct. And I think that's where ultimately you have to look at who is your ideal clientele and pricing appropriately to them. And I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't really come up to be able to do that. And
Yeah. You
without,
weren't there yet.
yeah, I weren't there. And it is the reality of, I tell people all the time, I'm like, you want to build a house? I will tell you that building your house is just like driving a car. You're going to have a roof over your head. It's going to drive you to point A to point B. The reality is what kind of car do you want to drive? Because if you work with
Right.
me, what you see in this photo right here, because I'm on a video call with clients, I say, what you see in this photo right here, I'm at least a minimum of an Audi, which my price per square foot to build and do this design is this. I might be doing myself a disservice as a saleswoman, but you can get it for cheaper. Do you want to
Yeah.
drive a Toyota? Because I'm not a
Right.
Toyota. Like, it's the same. People don't walk into Porsche wanting the Volkswagen. I think
Nope.
that's the same family now. I don't know. Porsche,
Yeah.
Volkswagen, Audi. Like,
Right.
they want the Porsche. Like,
That's
so
it. They're not there for the inexpensive car.
correct. So
And bringing out the inexpensive car
it's
doesn't
not
make
going to
them
do any
happy.
correct.
It's like, what are you doing with that over here?
Yeah. I mean,
I
I was
didn't come
having
here for that.
a whole nother conversation about like that next luxury level, which
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
we don't have
It's
to
a
go
whole
into it.
nother level.
It's a
It's
whole
a whole
nother,
nother level. Yeah. There is a whole nother level.
psychology. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Let me ask you, have you ever wished you could sit at a table with other smart, driven designers and window treatment pros and just talk through the challenges in your business? Not in a giant ballroom, not at a keynote where you leave with a notebook full of ideas, but a real conversation, real coaching, and real clarity. That's what happens at my Power Talk Friday events. On October 24th at High Point Market, this is 2025, I am bringing 5 powerhouse experts, Shayna Polino, Andrea Libros, Eileen Hahn, Amber De La Garza, and Donna Hoffman for a full day of clarity, strategy, and connection. And here's the thing. There are no 2 Power Talk Fridays that are ever the same. Every lineup is brand new, so every single time you walk away with fresh insights and breakthroughs that you didn't even know you needed. The other thing about a Power Talk Friday is I always say, if you've been to one, you got to go to another one, right? They are exactly different, just as I said. But here's the other thing. When you go to a Power Talk Friday, even if the experts were the same a year or 2 or 3 or 4 years later, you're ready for different information. Have you ever listened to a podcast episode and thought you got a lot of information from it and then listened to the same episode 3 years later when we rerun it or something and you're like, my gosh, I didn't realize that. I didn't pick that up the first time because you grow. So your ability to capture information grows. So please, if you are a Power Talk Friday alumni and you don't think you need to do it again, think twice. You're the person who knows how great this is. Okay. And here's the thing, up to 18 seats only. That's it. No more than that. So we want this ratio of experts to you so that we can give you quality time and information. All right. So if you're ready to step out of the weeds and into your CEO role, I want you to go to powertalkfriday.com and sign up now. And then I will see you October 24th, 2025 in High Point. Exactly. Now, the other thing that you really focused on was figuring out what your why is and what your differentiator is. And this is a big thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm consistently telling designers, we're not looking, I'm curious what yours is, but it doesn't always have to be huge. But it has to be true and real. And like you said, you're going to beat the drum and teach it to everybody every day. So what is that for you, Ali?
Yeah. Well, clearly I'm not doing a good enough job if you don't know what mine. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
I'm joking. I'm
joking. I want you to go through it with us.
Yeah. I got you. I'm just joking. So what I'll say is the reason that I should go back to like the reason that I got into this industry is because I come from a luxury hospitality background. I had the confidence to say, like, I've served this clientele in another facet of their lives. I served them in travel. I know how to solve their problems. I know how they like to be talked to. I know how they like to know what's next and how to anticipate their needs. That's what gave me the confidence when I looked at Costa Mesa and saw there's 2,500 interior designers within 25 miles. And I was like, when I saw that, I was like, first of all, that's a really saturated market. But what that means to me is there's a lot of demand. And what that also means to me is there's a lot of resources that are probably selling to those people that I can learn from. I just got to know enough to be dangerous. So what I'll say is the antithesis of what gave me the confidence to start this is because I knew that I could build a really incredible client experience. And I was like, I'll know enough to be dangerous. I'll learn that. I'll hire people for the technical, but I know how to roll out the red carpet and put on the little white gloves, but do it in an approachable way. So I always knew that my past experience of working at 5-star hotels and working at Deloitte, that would resonate with someone. And so I was telling people that like in conversations when I would meet potential clients, but I wasn't seeing that as a superpower. I was telling people that. So what would happen, and this is a perfect example, and it's one of the things that I switched in 2022. Remember how I told you I had to flip everything upside down? I did a lot of things. I hired someone for social media, completely changed my client onboarding process. I mean, there's so much that I did. But what I will say is I used to, in my video calls with people, I used to have a slide where I would start with talking about myself. Because I thought I needed to establish, dumb. So thought that I had to like establish myself as this like blah, 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 I had to talk about, because I was so insecure about not having experience.
I can't tell you the number of chairman of the board clients that I'm like, okay, run through that. I'm like, no, I came to find out how you're going to make my life better. I don't really care about you. I already vetted you and I'm not sold on you yet, but this isn't the first thing I want to learn. I don't want the Ali show. I want the LuAnn show.
Yeah. Ask me
Tell
like
me, yeah, ask me what I want.
what
Ask
I
me
want.
what you can do for me, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So anyways, through the sale, there's so much of what I realized is that I needed to just like really dive into like the why behind it they were doing things. But the why of what made me different was I realized the success of these projects, and a lot of the reason why these clients were hiring me was because I had this past experience and was able to build trust that I was a good project manager. I'd create a good experience for you. Here's the process and outlined it. So I realized that like these people trusted me because of my past experience, and because of the process that I had created. So when I hired
Nice.
the girl who helped me freelance on social media, I said, okay, here's what we got to do. Like, people are willing to, like, they want to work with the AEF Interiors. Once I start talking to them, I think that their buy-in and why they trust me is because of the process that we have. And I'm showing them what it's going to look like to work with us. So I think we need to tell like the world on Instagram, if that's where our leads are all coming from, we need to reinforce that and show them and have a carousel and say, here's what becoming an AEF client looks like.
Yeah.
Here's what the construction binder and all the documentation looks like. And I will say, I'm going to toot our horns. Like, we really took a different lens of showing people how we did things. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of like reels and posts that just are like inspired by us. And
Wow.
we really took a different lens of showing people what made us different. And because I don't mean to belittle, but like our portfolio was nice, but it wasn't what made us special.
Right, right,
And
right,
so
right, right.
I
Well, it
needed
rarely
to
is, by the way.
thank you, thank
I
you.
was gonna say.
Now we've gotten to a different place, but like I knew that what made us special was my background and the experience of all the years of doing something else that were different than every other interior designer. And we were going to be able to run. And honestly, if I'm being completely honest, we we do have an incredible experience, but I just say it louder than anyone else on
That's what
Instagram.
it is,
Yeah,
right? Like
I
a lot of
just
design. That's what it is. It's like you pick the thing to say and just you
yes.
think yes, right. And I appreciate that. And the thing is, listen, you listen to the show. It's like we call it our Eric Award transferable skills. What is the thing that you've done somewhere in your life? I mean, I remember one time, oh my God, 100 years ago, in the first year of the podcast, Christy Lou was on the podcast, and I remember, not verbatim, it's 9.5 years ago or whatever it was, but it was like I know she had triplets, and I don't know if she had kids in addition to the triplets. Okay, so she might have had triplets and another kid or two, and she is a working professional interior designer with an actual grown-up business and all the things. But she's also the wife of a highly successful surgeon with a big position in a hospital, and so she would package that and she would be like, listen, I know what it's like to have 1,000 maniacs running through your house every day, but then having to turn the house around on Saturday night for this amazing dinner party, all she who they think they are, and hosting as if, your house is just always perfect. And so back 10 years ago, she was talking about how a home could be beautiful, but 2 dogs and 5 kids and chaos can reign. But yeah, it's just not like we'll throw in the towel one day when everybody's gone, we'll have a beautiful home. And so she resonated not only with people with lots of kids and activity, but also those, whether they were wives or husbands of people that had to do professional entertaining,
So
right?
that, yes, and that's what's so interesting is so that we started to show, I was like, I think what's also going to echo this, we would show people like our process on Instagram through reels and through posts. And then what would happen is interior designers then became interested in what we were doing. So interior designers then helped validate us because they increase our follower count.
Oh,
So then
wow.
when people get referred to us or people find us, they're like, oh, she's legit. And so what would happen is that the interior designers would want to know what our process is. So they're saving, they're liking, and they're causing that content to hit the explore and for us to find new people.
Whoa.
It was incredible. But what I was going to say is that what was so interesting is during that time, speaking to like she was able to attract a certain clientele. a lot of my clientele, believe it or not, is actually projects that are led by men.
Interesting.
Because let's just say we have a post where it says our top 5 softwares that we're using to streamline our business, to streamline your project like a business. Okay, I had a guy, he owned a business in San Diego, called me about a project that he was doing in Nashville, was like, "Hey, I saw your reel about using Asana. I use Asana too. Like, I think we speak the same language." Like, so
Wow.
it is really powerful what, like, the type of material you're putting out and so I work with, I'd say, a majority of our projects, probably 70% of them, are men who come to me. And
Yeah.
they hire me because they're like, "Oh, Deloitte? Oh, like you have all this
Yes. You
past
speak their
experience."
language.
Like
Yeah.
and they resonate with our content and they're
Mm.
like, "Great." And their wife, they're the like some of my favorite clients because you know what? Their wife doesn't give a crap. That's why they hired a designer, is because their wife is no Betty Homemaker. And the wife's like, "Whatever makes Bob happy. I don't really care." Right?
She's out running her
Yeah,
own
she's out
career or running kids
running.
around or do
Yeah,
whatever.
and
She's just like, yeah,
she's
this is his thing.
and then the husband's like off my back because he realizes to outsource and to hire people is the smartest way to run his business. And it's like, so it's so interesting because, and then I have other people who come to me on Instagram and they're like, "I just love your story of how you've built your business. Like
Oh,
I built my business too." Like, so it's, I think that when you just have to choose like why and what makes you special, and like I said, just beat the drum louder. And it's
yeah.
become now in a different way, we're not only known for our processes, because it's so funny, right? Like I started to tell people, right, that hey, we're the best at processes. I just decided to own that. And then I'd go out to a luncheon and I'd meet a realtor, and a realtor would introduce me to another realtor. "Oh my god, have you met Ali? She's so good at processes. She's got," and I'm
Yes.
like, "How do you know this? You've never worked with me, dude." Like, but you become
You've been
what.
taught. Yep.
Yeah,
You've
so
taught them.
you tell people what you want to be known for, and then now I feel like it's like we're known for this, like we call it timeless homes with modern charm, where we're creating this like charming aesthetic and all these different, anyways, I won't go
Yeah.
into it too much, but that is what.
No, but that's awesome. I love it. And the thing about it is, you know, it's not making up a thing that you're going to tell
No, it's
people.
not.
It's just identifying the thing that you're good at and being okay with saying this is my thing. And you know, a lot of designers have a good process and don't talk about it, and some talk about it, but they don't maybe express it in a way that communicates the value. Because if you're saying, well, I'm good at process, I should say it. Like you have to feel it, right? It's like for me, I love sales. I love negotiation. I love conversations about mission and vision and strategy. These are my things. I can do lots of things in a business, but because these are the things I could talk about all day long, I have naturally taught you guys that these are my 3 superpowers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's just, it has to be something that you're passionate about in
Right,
order to.
right.
But I think you could, someone who's a teacher could come to the interior design space and say, "What, you know what makes me even better interior designer is because I've watched kids make messes in my classroom all day. I know what would be best, and you know what, I know how to teach people through a process, and I'm going to
Yeah,
lead,
we
I'm
had a
going to
teacher
handle."
on the show one time.
Yeah,
I'm trying
so
to think of the name's escaping me, but she was like, I explain to people with my background in education, it's my pleasure and joy to walk you through and help you understand. Whereas some people are like, I don't want to know, like the wives that you're talking about. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. But she attracts the people who do want to know, that are
yeah,
like, how do you do that? How do you shop for that? What do you do with that? Why did you pick that stone instead of that stone? Right? Like that
yeah,
would drive me to drink. I would be
yeah.
like, no, Allie, go do
No
it, please.
mas.
Just
Yeah,
yeah,
just go. Yeah,
just
yeah,
bring it in the house.
yeah.
But that's the thing. There are people that you know, that would resonate with that. And that's all it is whoever you are. I love what you're saying. Beat it loud and clear.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just think
Yeah.
that the minute that we started to really own that is when I feel like we started to see big growth. I mean, again, you go
Yeah.
from 72 leads to 146 leads. Like that doesn't
Wow.
happen without figuring out who you are
Yeah.
and what makes you different,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love it. You know what? I'm 100% sure that I could pick apart 3 other topics in the
Oh,
growth of your business here.
I
You know,
will say lastly that I did add a question to the, you remember how we started this conversation? It was like, "Hey,
yes.
what are
Oh, right.
I added a question since then, and I
Oh,
asked if you feel comfortable sharing, who did you move forward with?"
oh, good.
I
Love it.
asked that now because it's interesting to know, is it someone that's further along than you? Is it
Yes.
someone that's like hasn't been in business as long. It's just and you
Yeah.
start to, because I think sometimes you create who your competition is in your head, but like why not find out who it really
Who
is?
it really is. Well,
Yeah.
and it's funny because you were introduced to me through Rick Campos, Design Biz Survival Guide, right? And I believe that you were at his retreat where this event took place. So Rachel Usher is the designer in the UK that Rick has been pairing with for like 25 and 24 to do the Business of Interiors Community Summit in London. And so this year, Rick and Rachel invited me and Jude Charles also to speak at it and go to London. We're just back a couple of weeks from that trip, right? But I remember when Rick introduced me to Rachel, and I said to Rachel, like, what's the deal? What's going on here? Why are you doing this thing in London? Blah, blah, blah. Like, what's happening? And she said to me, she said, listen, your podcast, Rick's podcast, like, you guys in America, like, it's not just you two, but we're all like, you all talk about, like, you just spent 45 minutes telling us exactly the questions that you ask and how it resulted in catapulting your business. And she said, we're not doing that in the UK. And she said, she went to one of Rick's retreats, and his retreat is coming up in September again, or October of 2025. So like go to his show notes and find it, because I think he's got like 1 or 2 seats left. Okay, so just shout out to the retreat, is amazing. But she said she was sitting at one of his retreats. She bought the ticket and went because she lives in London, but she also has a home in Orange County near where Rick and you guys are. And so she said she loved everything about it, loved all the discussions, all the speakers, all the things. And she said, but the thing that nailed it for her, and I wonder if you were at this one, because I know you've been to a couple of Ricks. She said there was a panel discussion of 3 designers. And in the context of the conversation, they were talking about how they all at one point discovered that they had all bid the same project.
Oh, I wasn't at that one.
Okay. And she said, and one of them got it and the other 2 didn't, obviously. And she said, but when she learned that the women said, and then after the project was awarded, we all met at a coffee shop and we opened up our presentations and we showed each other our presentations and we showed each other the pricing that we had given. And she said, I was floored that 3 designers in the same demographic area would get together and share this information with each other. And she goes, and that was enough for me. I was like, I got to do this in the UK. And like she said to Rick, we don't. And he's like, then do it in the UK, create a retreat. And so she did. But the other thing for me, so for her, the big aha was just that 3 designers would do this. And we're just like, we do this in the US all the time. Like, come on, we're this, so is yesterday news, not sharing information, right? But the other aha for her was, and the 3 designers was, that the designers learned that it wasn't price. That wasn't the differentiator. Like they weren't different in price. Like one might have done a flat fee, the other might have done an hourly, other one might have done a combo, whatever it was. But when you got it all down, they were all very much within price. Now, I don't know the kicker of the story to why one won the bid versus the others, but the 2 significant things were the sharing and like you said, like if you ask the question and these 3 are comparing their presentations, now the 2 that didn't get it have an insight to what the lever was that made the client pick that one, but also to recognize, like, why make up the story in your head that, oh, Sally won it because she's probably so much less expensive? It's like, oh, no, Sally's price is about the same as mine. I didn't do as good a job of explaining what I was going to do, or I didn't do as good a job of creating the vision of whatever the shortcoming was, right?
I completely agree. If you're not
Yeah,
seeking to understand, you'll write the narrative in your head for yourself,
yeah, yeah,
and you'll
yeah,
start throwing stuff at the walls that didn't even need to change. You start
yeah,
pulling levers that you don't even need to
yeah,
be pulled. I think it's so since I've added that question though, so same to what you're saying, like again, I've got a group of like 5 or 6 of us all in a group text message, and there have been times amongst each other I'm like, oh, blah 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 just won this bid over me, and what did you do that was so good, like, or like, and it's just it's a
yeah,
level of, I think too, the reality is like the way that I look at it is like we're in a service-based business,
yeah,
and we can all provide the same tangible commodity of a sofa. We can all provide the same
Yep.
tangible commodity of fabric. And to me, what should make that's why when the best person wins, I'm like, it's the best personality fit. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
person who is going to be and that's where I'm just like, I'm so willing to like share and be open about what we do, because the reality is like, I can share all day, but you're going to take the parts that feel true to you.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I,
You can't copy it directly. You can try to, but your humanness is going to show up in it, and you're going to morph it into your version of it.
I call it my swagger. I'm like, you don't have the same swagger that I do, okay?
Nobody does, Allie. Nobody does, Allie.
No, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
it's the openness that's so
Yeah.
helpful that, like, in rising tides, rising ships, whatever the frick
Yep.
the phrase is. But
Yep.
I
Yep.
do think that it's good to know that information. I just don't think that you can continue to like lose projects. It's something I teach about the business of design and about another topic at the Haven workshop. And I'm always like, pull out your pens and paper, guys. This is the most
Yeah, yeah,
valuable
yeah.
thing that I did in my whole career. And it's ask for feedback. You have,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it is sometimes scary to know what,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, but
Oh,
I
it
mean,
is.
why?
But you know what? This is the thing. The person is sitting there thinking it anyway. So by you
True.
asking for it doesn't mean it's not actually happening or happened. You just now know it. And I will say, I think your biggest point is twofold. Number one, what you made up in your mind could be way worse than the truth. And number two, you can take the things you learn and turn it into gold like you have done. You know what I'm saying? It's and the other thing too is, I will just say before we go on it, is if when you do this exploration, and if you find, like in your case, where one designer or your friend is getting another one, a lot of times what I find when a designer loses a project, it isn't because of price, it isn't because of aesthetic, it isn't because of what their process or their system. It's because something in the presentation was confusing. I cannot tell you the number of times I've had a chairman of board tell me, well, how are you going to explain that to them? And I'm just like, no, ma'am. I've had 1,100 conversations with interior designers and I didn't understand that. You know what I mean? Because a confused mind cannot buy. A confused mind will just go, huh, okay, let me table that. And then if they've got designer two walking in, and as much as they liked you, if designer two makes it bang, 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 and they can picture and understand how the money's going to work, how the process is going to work, how the hours are going to work, you can have as good a process, but you could be really bad at explaining it.
Which brings me to part 2 of our convo, because the other thing that I did is I realized I wasn't selling my process well. And so I went from doing phone calls to video calls, and I completely flipped everything upside down, because I realized like I was leaving everything to the 11th hour, and I wasn't able to sell throughout the process. Like what? Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It's like my team. It's like, inquiries come in all the time. Oh, can I ask LuAnn this? Can I have 10 minutes of time of that? Can I do this like this? And it's like, I'm always like 99% of the time I prefer a phone call, because I'm going to get up and walk. I don't care if I walk in circles in my office or I'm going to walk outside. But sponsor phone call? No, Mariali, make that a video call. Like, you gotta see my face. You gotta see my face light up when I tell you about how great the podcast is and how amazing my designers are and how great this community is. You gotta see it. You gotta feel it. I gotta sell it to you.
Yeah, we found, which it will be I'll try to keep it brief, but basically what we did is I'd hop on these phone calls and I'd realize, I'm like, is this man on Bluetooth in his car while he's driving taking this phone call? I asked you to open up this PDF. Are you kidding me? I told you in my email, we're going to go through this PDF. They don't listen. So what I did is I have all the data to how many, because I have the percentages of how many people then convert to video versus phone call. I will tell you, the data says I have data that says less people will get on a video call than they will a phone call. But my conversion rate from the video call to that next meeting is higher. So you have to be willing. But what I'll say is that
you have to set your ground rules.
Correct,
like it's like the show. I get on this video, you don't have a headset, I'm sorry, sweetie, we're not doing this.
Good night.
Oh, well, here's what I love. All the other podcasts I do, this is good enough. Oh, that's awesome. But you see, it's a deal breaker for me.
Going back, yes, you're like, it doesn't work for me. And that's what we found is like, doing the video call, what we would do though to sell our process better is based on their inquiry form. If it was a renovation project, if it was a furniture project, if it was renovation furniture, we had a video deck tailored to what they would expect. So our
Yes.
video call process, I didn't have to sell it it wasn't confusing anymore what this fee
Right.
was worth, because we walk them through what, like, here's an example of an invoice. Here's an
Yeah.
example of what a presentation looks like. And it's just screenshots. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
storytelling. It's
Yep.
visual, so that people, when they get to the end where they're not confused of what was this phase and I'm paying this for
Right.
that, we walked you through it on the first video call. And there's no way, again, when you talk about signing, I mean, I don't know what I remember 9 out of 2. That was terrible. The previous year
Yeah.
we signed
2
18
out of
out of
9.
23, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
because we started doing video calls. But
Yeah.
you're the sales queen, you could talk all about this.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
gonna be a
yeah.
whole
No,
yeah.
look, like high value sales, you got to do it. You got
Yeah,
to do it with face to face. You
yeah.
just do. It's like the same with, it's the other thing I change with most of my chairman of the boards. Wait, you're emailing $150,000 proposal and sitting there and waiting for somebody to say, "Hey, I got your email. Let's go ahead." Like, no way, man. Like, no. Drive over, sit at the kitchen table. At the very least, do it by video. That's like the easiest way to up your close rate is to present
Present in
the
person.
design proposal face to face. It's like, I don't care how many you did last year and how many you closed, you will increase your close rate.
I think
Every designer I've ever talked to, that has changed. Like, literally, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe how easy that was. It worked so good. I'm like, I know.
I did it at one point in the process. We don't do it now, but I've been hearing that that's something we have to go back to, is
Yeah.
presenting in person. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's in person or video, in my
Yeah.
opinion,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's too easy to sit in an inbox. And now you're like, I can see that they opened it. Should I say what's going on? Or it's been 3 days. Do you think it's like, how about this?
So
How about you present it to them? And when you're done, you say, what do you think? Do you want to go forward?
okay, so what I've done to hack that, so what I do is we do the video call, we meet with someone in their house. At the end of the in-person meeting, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get you the proposal by Wednesday. Bob, how's your schedule look for Tuesday? Don't want to give them too much time to think about it. It's an
Right.
emotional decision. I say
Right.
Tuesday, not 9:30, 15-minute call. Okay, cool. So I don't get ghosted, because what I
Right.
do is I send them the proposal via email. We hop on the phone and I just say, hey, Bob, like, and I tell people in the email, review this prior to our call. Like, I'm not having you, oh,
Yeah.
this is
So
my
you're
first
sending
time.
it Wednesday and making an appointment Thursday or
Thursday.
whatever
Yep.
to
And
to say, yeah.
I don't get ghosted,
Okay.
because no,
Okay.
but I do think, no, I do think though, as we continue to elevate though, we're
Yeah.
going to have to look at,
Well, my thing is I want to see where the face goes. Wait, what? How much is like? Because they're not like when you like. Listen, you are honing in on your process. It's clear, and you are willing to A/B test. Essentially, this works. This doesn't work. So I would be less likely to be like, Ali, you have to change a thing. I'm never the person that, if it's working, we don't break it. Right?
sure.
I get that, but the thing is, by default, if you don't have a finite, like, I'm sending you this Wednesday, we have a defined meeting on Thursday, but I personally, I want to see the face. I want to see when I say, hey, the fee for the design fee is 65 and the furniture budget is 200. I want to see the face go, oh, okay. Or I want to see the face not change and just be like, okay, and wait, what is the outdoor pool area going to be? Like, oh, they just processed that. They just, like, that was not a blip. You can't get that if you're not looking at their eyeballs.
I agree. And I think what we find happens is on that video call, and you might have time. So if we need to cut this, just please let me know. But what I'll say is that in our video call, there's the very first thing we start with is a list of questions about them. And it will say, like, have you met with an architect or builder? And if they say no, because they have no idea how much price is, the question that's not on there is, I always, so it's last, like, have you worked with a designer? Well, blah, blah, this and this. And there's a question that's not on the slide. And I'll say,
Yeah.
like, hey, LuAnn, it's that point in the conversation. We got to kind of have that icky conversation. We got to talk about money.
Yeah.
On your inquiry form for Glenbrook Lane, I noticed that you put an investment of $500,000. How'd we get to that number?
Yeah.
And they'll
Yeah,
say,
we're-
oh, blah, blah, this and this and this. My last renovation. I'm like, okay, well, here's what I'll tell you. The price per square foot on what you're seeing in this photo to the left, right here, these questions, the price per square foot is between 450 to 800 to remodel. Based off Glenbrook Lane, which you told me is 5,000 square feet, I already did the numbers. I'm
Yeah.
like, here's the range. And then they'll say, okay, well then how much is, like, if that's that, what's your design fee? And I'm like, again, my price per square foot is between this, and I see it. That's when I see it.
Yes.
So like
Yes.
when
So
they,
you're pre-qualifying price. And I love that. You see, you should be ballparking price. You should get to know that they have an expectation of what to expect. So that is a great distinction, Ali. But do you know how many designers just do a consult, don't bring up price, and just like, here it is.
well,
Hope
and
you like
yeah,
it.
and that's where I think that's why, like, I feel good about sending the fee, because I'm like, oh, it fell within the range. Like we
Yes.
talk, yeah, and I do
Yeah,
get
100%. And I would do that with window treatments. Like, in other words, I would ballpark it. I'd walk around. We're looking at 25 to 30K here, blah, blah, blah. We got it good. Now I can send it by email.
now I can,
100%.
yes,
100%.
yeah,
Like, so I'm glad that you brought up that distinction, because it's when before you are seasoned enough to ballpark it, to estimate it with that pre-conversation and stuff, or you don't have it down as quick, you need to see the reaction, right?
agreed.
I mean, I
And
had a
video
chairman of the
calls,
board, I
where
had
are
a
you going to
chairman of
get
the
it?
board, I guess about 5 or 6 months ago, and the design fee was like 35,000, and the person thought it was too high. And she says to me, "What should I do?" And I said, "Go ask her what she thought it was going to be."
Correct.
Like,
See,
I
ask,
want you to ask that right then.
yes,
Because if she comes back and says, "I thought it was 5," it's like, I'm sorry, sweetie, go to Ethan Allen. You know what I mean? It's free there. How about that? Go get that.
but you
But if
have
she
to
said, "I
ask.
thought it would be about 25," now you're like, what room do you want to take off? We can do this.
Thank you. Yes, 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 yes. And that's why we break prices down by room. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if that's the number you wanted to be at, where do you want to cut? Yeah, yeah,
Let's take off the family room. Let's take off the guest bedroom,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
No, I love it. I love it, Ali. You know, you're a hashtag smart lady, I gotta say.
You know what? That feather in my cap, I'll wear that all day long. Give it to me. Give it to me.
Oh my goodness. Well, I appreciate you so much. And I do know it's funny, the universe works in my favor all the time. Your favor too. It's like, we would have had a good conversation, but having had multiple real life conversations with you before this now, I know it's even deeper and even more meaningful, and we got good information out of you. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
A friendly conversation is much better than a rando. So
That's
I
it.
agree, LuAnn. Thanks for having me.
First of all, Ali, huge thanks to you for being so incredibly open about this. I have to say, it takes a lot of courage to do what you did and then to share with us the doing of it. And, when Ali shared that she started to ask clients why they didn't hire her after a proposal, I felt that in my gut. Did you too? Because let's get real. This is not easy to do. Asking for feedback when you didn't land a project. It could be a hard pill to swallow to hear that. And there's no question. It's raw. It's vulnerable. It takes a kind of emotional maturity that many of us spend years trying to not do, right? But that's exactly what makes Ali's perspective so powerful. She didn't stumble into this practice. She sat back and thought about the lessons she learned from her years in luxury hospitality, where feedback wasn't optional, it was expected. That world taught her that if you want to operate at a high level, you cannot just make assumptions about the client and their perspective of the experience. You need to seek the clarity. You need to listen. It's interesting because a similar lesson on mindset and its critical importance shows up in a very different way in another conversation I had on the podcast with Enrique Crespo. This was episode number 856. If you remember that episode, Enrique teaches the luxury mindset and perspective to his team by taking them on field trips. They go to 5-star hotels. They go to Michelin-starred restaurants and luxury retail spaces. Not so much for the inspiration of the decor and everything, but to train their senses. He wants them to understand what high-end clients expect, even in the smallest details. I mean, because let's face it, most of us are not our target client, right? These field trips open the eyes to the expectations and experiences that the luxury clients think of as normal. It's their day to day, not a special one-off splurge or a treat. So here's the nuance that I want you to take away. Ali brings this understanding from her past experiences. Enrique builds this experience in his team. Both of these principles are committed to excellence, and both are showing us that if you want to design for the luxury client, you have to step outside of your own point of view and into your client's lived reality. You have to care enough to ask and be brave enough to act on what you hear. And what Ali heard changed everything. How surprised were you to learn that the client told her pricing wasn't too high, but in fact it was too low? Right? I mean, nobody wants to be the roof that's the lowest price roof, okay? We know it intellectually, but sometimes you need it smack dab in your face, all right? And then the other insight from this non-client, he didn't say that it wasn't that her portfolio wasn't beautiful, right? He didn't say, oh, your portfolio isn't up to snuff. But he said how it concerned him that it didn't reflect enough work in his specific neighborhood. The problem was that it said to him she wasn't ready for his level. She might not meet his expectations of service, quality, and experience. You see, this is a variation on, I expect you to do a beautiful room. The fact that she had a beautiful portfolio wasn't the whole story for him. He wanted to know, could she perform at the level? And if she had clients in his neighborhood, his brain would be able to say to himself, oh yeah, she gets me and what I expect because the people who live around me have similar expectations. So the beautiful rooms were not enough, right? Now, do you hear the conundrum? Here, his assumptions are in his head. He has decided certain things will tell him if a designer is the right one or not. These are not actually facts. This is not data-driven analysis on his part. It is his subjective criteria. And I think we can all imagine that Ali likely would have handled that project. But her marketing, her messaging, her pricing needs to speak for her as well, to back up her words and her proposal presentation. It all matters. It all creates a story that in the end either makes sense to your potential client or it doesn't. And when the story doesn't click, okay, it leaves room for doubt, for questions like this particular client had, right? And here is the go-to rule for all sales. I don't care if you're selling, widgets for $1 or tens of thousands of dollars in design fees and products. A confused mind does not buy, okay? If a prospective client is confused, they will not buy. The brain stops, okay? And the thing is, if especially your story, your messaging, your pricing, your proposal don't line up and don't make sense, then they're out. They're out. And this particular gentleman was kind enough to share it with Ali. But most of the time, not only do we not get this information shared with us, whether we ask it or not, a lot of times the end consumer doesn't even have an understanding of why. They just know it didn't line up. Okay, so if your portfolio is that flipping gorgeous, then your pricing should go along with it. Okay, so I mean, it's just, does it make sense to you? Do you get this, right? And what I also love, instead of letting the feedback crush her, Ali used it. She went into action, realizing, she herself, realizing that she was prepared to work on full projects in this area. She instead decided, I need to show up and prove that. Instead of complaining about the age-old chicken or the egg, right? How can I do projects in this town if it's part of town if you won't let me in, right? You could stand there and complain about that all day long. Instead, Ali thought about it, and she realized if she takes on smaller rooms, more focus on actual projects, she could build her credibility in that neighborhood one client at a time, one project at a time. So the feedback didn't set her back. She created a strategy to get in the door in the luxury neighborhood. I love it. Ali, I love it. And that brings me to the story that I did mention on the show about how when Rachel Usher, a United Kingdom luxury designer, attended Rick Campos's Design Biz Retreat in Los Angeles a couple of years ago. And shout out to Rick, my friend, and the host of the Design Biz Survival Guide podcast. During a panel discussion at his retreat, 3 designers who had all bid the same project came together after the project was awarded to just one of them. And they sat and compared notes. They shared how they priced, how they presented, how they each told the story of their value. One of them won the job. The other 2 didn't. And instead of walking away in silence, they came together to learn and grow. It was radical, it was honest, and it was high-level business ownership. That moment made such an impression on Rachel Usher that it became the catalyst behind both launching her own podcast, The Business of Interiors, as well as the Business of Interiors Summit, which she now co-hosts with Rick Campos in London. And let me tell you, I spoke at that summit this past summer. The vibe of this summit is next level. The caliber of the conversations, the designers who showed up ready to grow, the willingness to not just talk about design, but also about process and pricing and mindset and mistakes. And you, if you are listening to me from America, you are invited. If you are listening to me from, wherever, Rachel welcomes you at her next summit, her and Rick. This is where the future of our industry is being shaped. And if you're the kind of designer who resonated with Ali's episode today, someone who's willing to ask better questions, to look inward, and to do uncomfortable work of growth, get in rooms like that one at the Design Biz Retreat or at the Business of Interior Summit, right? Or at my own Power Talk Friday coming up this October 24th, 2025 in High Point. Just do it wherever, whenever you can. Level up. Get in the room so that you can get better, right? Here's the final takeaway. You don't build an excellent business by pretending to have all the answers. You build it by being the kind of leader who asks the right questions. And you guys know that I believe there is actually no such thing as failure, unless you don't take the time to find the lesson in it, right? You got to wind it back. What could you have done differently to change the outcome? Because if you don't do that, if you don't take the time to find the lesson, I firmly believe the universe just keeps putting the lesson in front of you over and over and over in 16,000 ways from Sunday, a version of it, okay? So, fall down. Risk, fail, learn, and get up again. That's how mistakes turn into your next success. And it reminded us, Ali, thank you. Ali, thank you for reminding us that failure and feedback are essential, that they're information, right? And Enrique reminded us that luxury is about perception. And Rick and Rachel reminded us that sometimes our competitors can become our greatest source of clarity and courage. So be brave, be curious, decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Niagara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNiagara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.